You're listening to Flip Empire, the show committed to helping real estate entrepreneurs who want to build their empire without sacrificing their life. Your success and freedom starts now with your host, Alex Pardo.
What's going on? This is episode 668. So thank you for supporting the Flip Empire show. I got an awesome guest, friend, and episode lined up for you here. You're about to hear from Jennifer Sargeant, who is a marketing ninja, digital marketer. She's just anything and everything when it comes to marketing. She's just a rock star in so many ways. You're about to hear a pretty... It's funny now. It wasn't so funny a year ago, but kind of a unique way in which her and I connected and how we met. And you're about to hear how much value she added to me and why, well, just one of the reasons why I wanted to have her on this podcast, because I find, and we're going to elaborate more on the episode, but I find that real estate investors in general are not the best marketers. And especially when it comes to digital marketing. And Jennifer's an expert. She's managed over $1 million in ad spend. She is just an expert when it comes to search engine optimization, social media. So we talk about how you can leverage social media to generate more high quality leads in your real estate investing business. And don't tune me out. You don't necessarily always have to be the one generating the content. We talk about what type of content, which platforms, the frequency, and then we even get into how you can get in front of your prospects, how you can enter the conversation happening inside their minds. And at the end of the day, like, marketing is the heart of every business. And as the market shifts and changes, and we need to adapt to that. And one of the ways we can do that is by improving our marketing. And so I think this episode can be instrumental to your success moving forward. So with that said, I want to introduce you to my friend, Jennifer Sargeant. What's going on, everyone? Alex Pardo here. And I'm always just very grateful and excited to come at you with another masterclass here on the Flip Empire show. And I have a very unique guest and just content that we're going to be sharing on today's podcast episode. So if you're joining us for the first time, thank you so much for devoting your time, energy, and attention to the show. My goal, our goal, is to always to over deliver and just share with you valuable content that can help you in your business and can ultimately allow you to live a better life by having a better business. So with that being said, I want to kind of set the stage and lay the groundwork before I introduce my friend, Jennifer Sargeant. And I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background. So you guys know that regardless of what kind of business you're running, most people who listen to the show are active real estate investors, but there's also entrepreneurs that listen to the show. Regardless of what business you run, you need to generate leads. Marketing has to be at the center, at the heart of your business. If you don't generate leads, I don't know how you generate revenue. And I don't know how you stay in business. So our guest expert here, Jennifer, is just a rock star when it comes to digital marketing, online marketing. And so I'm excited to introduce her to you here in a moment and ask her questions about how you, as an active, successful real estate investor, how you can generate more leads and how you can generate higher quality leads leveraging online marketing. We'll talk about social media. And when you hear that, you may have a love-hate relationship with some of these things, whether it's social media or otherwise. You don't always have to be the person behind the scenes doing all the heavy lifting when it comes to marketing and social media. So we'll talk about if that's not you and marketing or social media is not your jam, we'll talk about how to find the right person to help you. Jennifer does have a service, and that's actually how we connected. So before I kind of share how we connected, I want to go ahead and bring her on here and introduce her to you guys. So Jennifer, thank you for joining me.
Hey, you know what? Thank you for inviting me to be a part of your podcast. I'm super excited to be here. And I know that this conversation is going to be jam-packed with helpful information for your listeners. So I'm ready to dive in. But the story is pretty cool.
Yeah. So I'll dive right into the story. And I was just going to share, I have zero doubt that it's going to be jam-packed. So if you guys have been following the show for at least a year, 15 months or so, you know that last year I purchased my first self-storage facility in Jackson, Mississippi. And that was a bumpy ride to get to the closing table and over the finish line, but we got it done. And now we're in the process of selling that facility and think we're going to do very, very well on it. Well, what you guys don't know is that, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 weeks after that closing, somehow it's a mystery that I don't even know that I have the answer to at this point, but somehow I lost our Google My Business page for our facility, American Mini Storage. And we had, I think at the time, 61 reviews. I think we were like a 4.3, 4.4, 4.5 rating. And if you've owned a self-storage facility or if you're in commercial real estate, you understand the importance of Google My Business, especially when it comes to storage. That's how a lot of our customers find us, is not just through pay-per-click advertising, but through SEO and just Googling self-storage and the city that people are located in. Well, somehow I woke up, I went to Google and I could not find our facility in Jackson, Mississippi. And so I started digging and I tried to log into my Google My Business, and I got some red text that basically said, hey, you have to sign up for an account. And I didn't panic, but I kind of panicked. And I jumped on, I do what I would always do in situations when a challenge arises, is I take a step back, I kind of think through what are potential solutions. So I immediately started tapping into my network. And while I was waiting on people to get back to me, I started Googling and YouTubing just resources on how to get back a lost Google My Business page. And I started going down this rabbit trail, and I quickly realized I don't want to do this. This is not my area of expertise. I want to be out there impacting lives. I want to be looking for the next deal. And so I started just looking for solutions. And I must have contacted 3 or 4 agencies, 3 or 4 service providers, most of which never got back to me. And the one person I did speak to, I just didn't get that vibe that it was going to be a good fit. So while I was waiting for my network to get back to me with potential resources, I stumbled upon Jennifer's YouTube videos and her YouTube channel. And I spent 2 minutes watching one of her videos and I was like hooked. I'm like, I think I found my person. So I reached out to her, and to her credit, she got back to me like almost immediately. It felt like immediately. We hopped on a call, and she was just like, even though she didn't know if she was going to get my business or not, she was still trying to help. And that went a long way with me. So long story short, I ended up hiring her. And I want to say, I don't even remember, within a week and a half or so, like, you were somehow able to get our Google My Business page back. And she even provided me with digital assets. I think you called it a war chest, so that if this were to happen in the future, now I have backup, I have proof, I have screenshots. And so thank you so much, because that was, looking back, I'm able to laugh. But while I was going through that period of 2 weeks without a Google My Business, it sucked and it was kind of painful. So I'll introduce your voice into the conversation here, but that, from my perspective, hopefully you know how grateful I was to have you work on that for me.
I mean, I was so grateful to even help you out to begin with. So I definitely think it was a mutual grateful relationship for sure. But, you know, as a local business digital marketing expert, this is something that happens to local businesses all the time. And I have been on the side where I have worked for a company, a very large law firm in the Orlando area, and their listings vanished overnight. And the pit in your stomach is like indescribable. And it's hard to really totally convey like what it feels like unless you're the business owner or you're working for that business that's trying to get that listing back on Google, because your Google listing is your heart, your heartbeat of your listing essentially. So without it, it's hard to really perform and move forward. So since, meeting with you and helping you, I have helped countless of local businesses all over the world. I just helped somebody over in the UK get back on Google. I've helped people in Canada, et cetera. So, local business is what I love to do, and helping local businesses thrive online is what I love to do.
Yeah. Well, you provide a valuable service clearly, but I think what I want to acknowledge you for as well, which sometimes sounds obvious, but is not so obvious with vendors and different businesses I've interacted with and worked with, is just your customer service, like your attention to detail. So again, I want to publicly recognize you for that, because I felt like you went above and beyond for me. And I've been wanting to have you on the show because I feel like whether people work with you or not, I shared with you before we recorded, and I think I would throw myself into that category. Sometimes real estate investors are not the best marketers. I used a different choice word, but I think marketing is one of those areas where real estate investors just need to kind of sharpen the axe, or at least have somebody on their team, whether it's somebody they hire or somebody like you that they're able to contract or work with, to improve the digital marketing side of the business. So digital marketing, I feel like, is constantly changing. And it can feel like a full-time job, in my opinion, to just keep up with all the changes, what works, what doesn't. So what role do you find digital marketing playing in today's current business and economic environment that we're in, where things are kind of shifting and changing?
I think, well, let me put it to you this way. I don't know of any successful business that does not have a website, that does not have some sort of social media presence. If you don't have those things, perhaps you can, get by, but you're not going to cross over to 6-figure, 7 figures, 8-figure space without those elements. It's just, in today's day and age, you have to have those things. And then you also have to take it one step further and make sure you can show up in front of your ideal target audience. And the recipe that I have is actually quite simple. And the way I describe it is that the best way I can prove to you that I can grow your business, generate more leads and awareness for your business, is because I've done it with my business. And my business has taken off like a rocket ship since when I launched it in 2020. And the recipe, I hate to admit it, but it's quite simple. You solve people's problems and you build trust with them. So by the time that they want to make contact with you, which is exactly what happened in this scenario, you were ready to work with me. All I had to do was get on the phone with you and say, hey, I think this is what's going on. This is what I think we need to do. How do you want to move forward? Are you ready? And the best recipe, the best way to really execute this recipe is by leveraging social media. And my favorite platform right now to really leverage is YouTube. Now, YouTube does take a lot of work, does take a lot of momentum, but once you get started and once that, propeller starts moving, you're good to go. And YouTube is really starting to respond to other social channels such as Instagram and TikTok by pushing out shorts, which is their response to short 60-second or less vertical videos. So whenever you're publishing content and going all in on YouTube, for example, and you're search engine savvy, when somebody has a problem, they go to search engines, Google or YouTube, you have a chance for your video or your material to pop up and start solving problems and building that trust right away.
Yeah. And to your point, and to piggyback on one of the things you just shared, I mean, I don't know that you and I would have ever gotten in touch if it wasn't for me YouTubing the problem that I had. And obviously you did a good, job with your description and your title and, all the other stuff, meta tags or whatever, right? Whatever you do, hashtags. And I came across your video, and within 2 minutes, you had already established that trust and credibility with me, right? Because you just get a sense for, is somebody, BSing, or do they know their stuff? Are they likable? And so you had all those elements. One of the challenges that I want to bring up here that I think might be going on in the minds of people listening and potentially watching this is, I hear a lot of people say, I have a love-hate relationship with social media, right? I see the value in it for my business, but it can also be like a time suck. And I can relate to that. I don't post a lot, and probably to the detriment of my business. But I've also generated a lot of leads and made a lot of money through just Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. So I see the value in it. My opinion is people should be a producer with social media, not just a consumer. We all consume to some degree or another. What are your thoughts, and what would you say to those people that see the value in social media as a lead generator for their business, but don't necessarily want to be the ones in there doing it?
So there are a handful of social media platforms, right? Like there are so many to choose from. And what I really encourage business owners and entrepreneurs to focus on is choose 3. Anything outside of that are totally bonus points. And choose one that's going to give you search engine optimization awareness. That's going to be, YouTube or Pinterest. TikTok can also provide some SEO there. Provide a platform that's going to give you a lot of awareness. TikTok is a great platform for awareness, and so is Instagram. And choose a platform that you like, because if you like the platform, there's a chance that you're going to feel inspired to create the content. Then take that content and distribute it upon these 3 channels. And if you post it anywhere else, again, that's bonus points, but at least focusing on one type of content and then getting the most mileage out of it between those 3 platforms will help give you some steam and some momentum. But the content that you really should be focusing on is solving people's problems. At the end of the day, we're all kind of selfish, right? Like we all only really care of like, how are you going to help me solve this problem? Right. So showing up in front of your audience and just directly talking about how you're going to solve their problems is how you're going to get that momentum. And then once you're able to get to the point where you are generating leads or generating awareness, and you can hire somebody to help you and guide you through this process. It's still going to require work because at the end of the day, you are the face of the business. Yeah. I can't record videos for you. I can't record your content. So we really need you to show up to be able to do the work.
Yeah. So Dan Kennedy, like some call him the godfather of marketing. One of the things that I learned years ago from him that just always resonated with me is you want to enter the conversation going inside the minds of your prospects. And so a lot of real estate investors listen to this show. And so you might be a wholesaler, you might be a fix and flip investor, you might be out there trying to connect with owners of self-storage facilities or multifamily, but ask yourself, what's the conversation going on in their minds? And what is their pain point? What is the problem that they're having? How could you provide a solution? And one of the things I like to share with people that I've also discovered and learned through this podcast is do whatever content you're going to do, whether it's a podcast, YouTube, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter, but make it for them, to your point. And I think I'm saying the same thing a little bit differently, is don't make it for you. In other words, put your needs to the side, focus on them. And it's the Zig Ziglar quote, provide enough for other people and everything you want is going to come back to you. So talk a little bit about that, because there's people that are in their head, they're in their feelings about like, I don't look good on camera, or I'm going to sound stupid, or like they have such a mental hurdle about that when it comes to producing content that it just stops them in their tracks. Progress over perfection. Love it. That is it. And I will tell you that, so I essentially had to start my business in the height of the pandemic, which is like the worst time to start a business. And because I let my personal brand basically take hibernation for 5-6 years, I started from zero. So I had to get in front of the camera and really start building my brand. And I went through the same process. Like, I didn't like how I looked on camera. I didn't like how I sounded. I was, had to go back into the trenches and relearn how to edit videos. And I spent more time getting in my head than I did producing content. So finally, once I got over that mental hurdle, I just started it doesn't matter, just started cranking out content. And my worst videos, the videos that I absolutely hate, are my best performing videos and bring me traffic. Yeah. Isn't that amazing, right? Is that like sometimes we're so judgmental of our own self. And the truth is, with marketing, you don't know what's going to work until you put it out there. And Gary Vee talks about this all the time, is like, get out of your own head. Like, you are not, so I'm going to say something that might be controversial, and I'm not speaking to you, Jennifer, but just in general, you're not that important. And what I mean by that is, yes, you are important. God gave you unique gifts and talents. So I'm not saying you are not important, but people aren't looking at you with that much importance. I remember I wanted to start a podcast in 2014, beginning of 15, and I delayed 1.5 years because I was insecure about how would I sound? How would I look? What if I said something and I said ahs and ums and all this? And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? If I would have put off doing this podcast or just never done it because I was afraid of how I would look and sound, which when you think about it, it's kind of stupid. Like, who cares? I wouldn't have had the opportunity to impact people through this platform and connect with people like you and have you impact them. So I think when you put things in its proper perspective, we have so much more to gain by putting out valuable content that resonates with you, and that, more importantly, resonates with people who are having a challenge, than you are by letting fear stop you because of something that at the end of the day doesn't really matter. And there are a couple times, like somebody recently commented on a video that I posted and said, "Your eyebrow." And I'm like, at first I was like, what's wrong with my eyebrow? And then I thought, hey, thanks for the comment, because you just helped the algorithm. So even, all the comments count. So just putting the content out there. Or I've had people comment and say like, hey, your music's really loud. And I'll respond back and say, hey, thanks for this feedback. I'll make sure to turn it down. But if people do have something negative to say online, you have to get in the mindset of like, thanks for the algorithm points, because you engaging with my channel, whether it's positive or negative, is helpful. So just show up and get out of your head. And as we've talked about, early on in this podcast, is that
People only care about themselves. How are you going to help them? They don't care what your background is. They don't care what's going on. They don't care if you say or and stutter over your words. They don't care. They just want to know how you're going to help them.
That's right. So when people are asking themselves, okay, well, again, I see the value in doing this and I'm ready to take that next step, I'm just not sure what to share, right? So when we talk about our prospects, when we talk about avatars, and what's the problem and pain point that they're having that you can solve, what's your advice, Jennifer, on the type of content they should produce and on which platform? I know you said focus on 1 to 3 at most, but like specifically for real estate investors, let's speak to those who market to what we call motivated sellers, right? People that would sell a house at a discounted price or discounted terms. How could we reach more of those people online?
So I think the best way to reach them and to really, because we need to establish the trust, right, is, really focus on that video content paired with testimonials. That's going to be really helpful for you. And then identify, this is like a typical buyer persona exercise. Where are they hanging out? Where do they go to answer their questions? Where do they go to confirm that you are a real person doing real business with a good reputation? So then you start talking about, leveraging video. It doesn't matter if that video is on YouTube, Instagram, etc. Sort out how to leverage that video and then pair it with some testimonials, written testimonials on Google. That'd be great. And just add that into your content as well. But we first need to identify is where does your ideal target audience hang out and what are their problems? And with that, you can really create a really strong marketing, funnel, as, so to speak. So then when you pair that with like outreach marketing, and I've actually worked with somebody in your exact space with outreach marketing, where he was doing a lot of direct mail marketing, and we leveraged his website. And on his website, we had YouTube videos. So that way people could go right to his website and they could learn more about him. And he got a lot of messages from people saying that's what helped close the gap. And that's why those people picked up the phone to contact him, because the website established trust, the videos established trust, and they felt like this was a real person wanting to do business and not like a robot or a machine just trying to purchase houses and crank them out.
That's right. I have a lot that I want to ask you and unpack here, but just as an aside, and I think it speaks to part of our conversation here is, I want you to hear me loud and clear. You need to be yourself. If you decide to be a producer of content, right? You want to market online, be your unique self. Don't try to be Jennifer. Don't try to be me. Don't try to be anybody that you see out there, maybe an influencer that you admire or respect. I think a lot of people make that mistake is they hear Tony Robbins, Gary Vee. We can pick any info marketer out there, anybody that's producing content, and they try to sound like them or deliver like them. And it just, to me, it always comes across very inauthentic and it's not very sustainable. So I think one of the things that makes you, and I'm speaking to the person listening to this and watching this, one of the things that makes you unique is that there's only one of you. There's only one person that speaks like you and so whether you know it or not, you have expertise, you have a certain amount of knowledge that can impact others that are not at your level. So even if you're starting out, you can still help other people. So I try not to get too much into the way of like, oh, well, I haven't done X, right? Sometimes I feel like we put these mountains that if we haven't conquered, then we're not able to help people. And that's just not the case. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I'd love to hear your opinion on exactly that. Regardless if people are starting out or they've done 500 deals, I still believe they can produce content that can help people.
Oh, for sure. And I'm living proof that starting from zero can be done. And the things that would keep me up at night is, how am I going to make money for my family? In the pandemic, our household income was cut by 70% overnight. So how am I going to solve this problem? Is the market saturated? Everybody and their mom claims to be a marketer. Can I even try to do this? And then can I even break through all the noise on YouTube and on all these other social media platforms. And if I would have stayed in that space, or if I would have tried to adapt a different persona to make myself stand out or do something cool, I never would have started. And I get leads day in and day out from YouTube. People go to my YouTube channel, they see my content, they go to my website, they book a call with me, they fall right into the funnel. And this is, the recipe that I'm talking about. But if you don't show up and just try to be a scientist, then it's not going to work. And being somebody else is definitely not sustainable. And people will call you out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So there's a quote, and I'm going to butcher it, but there's a quote that is along the lines of, nobody can do the thing like you do.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'm probably not saying it correctly, but that's the foundation of it. So nobody can do the exact same thing the way you do it. So that's why everybody's unique, everybody's different. And I don't need to tell you guys this, but there's so much room at the top. So the only way to get to the top is to show up and perfect your craft and work on it every single day. Every single day I showed up. Maybe it was writing a script. Maybe it was writing something down. And not every day was I a rock star, but every day I try to be better and to improve my craft, because I had to make money. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. And you know what, though? I think I know you well enough at this point to say that while you having to make money was a big motivator, I know that you also genuinely want to help people. And I believe part of the reason your business has grown the way it has over the last couple of years is because you put others first. The reason I know this is because I experienced it. And I would assume if you treated me that way, that's probably how you treat all of your clients. And I think there's an important lesson to take away from this conversation. By the way, guys, if you're not watching this when it hits YouTube or wherever, you guys can connect with Jennifer on YouTube at Digital Sargeant, Sargeant, Sargeant. And she's also just a really good follow on Instagram. And if you want to, I think a really good example of just somebody being their authentic selves, follow Jennifer on social media, and you'll see that you seem like you're coming across and you're being yourself and you're very authentic. And by the way, Alex and Maddie Jandik speak very highly of you, who are part of our Ascend community. And after working with Jennifer, I found out that they're in the same area, in the Tampa, St. Pete area, and that they're friends and know each other, it's really cool when you connect with good people and then you see that you have other mutual friends who are also quality people. So I think it speaks to the importance of just continuing to build your network, and social media is a great way to do that.
And it's so important. Like we've touched on this a little bit about just doing good business and, doing what's right all the time. And that's like a foundation of how I built my business, is that, in the pandemic, yes, I needed to make money, but local businesses needed help more than ever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Local businesses needed to cut their budget, but they still needed to show up. So that was another motivator for me to get on YouTube to try to help these local businesses. And anybody who falls into my funnel and books a discovery call with me, that's a time where we're both interviewing each other. Is this going to be a good fit? And if the budget's not there, I always have options for people, like the local business hotline, which is $50 month-to-month membership. You get direct access to training courses, and you can attend an hour training session with me once a month. It's $50, opt in, opt out whenever you want. I don't care. The information is there to help you. And then I have consultation calls. I have, packages like how we work together. So I have a lot of solutions for people. And I can't tell you how many times I've gotten on the phone with somebody and they say, I want to run ads. And then as the conversation's running, they tell me, oh, well, I just took out a mortgage against my house to fund money to run ads. And I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, you're going to be desperate for these ads to work. No. Yeah. Let's first focus on the foundation principles of marketing. Start there. When I feel comfortable spending your money, then we can have this conversation. But I don't take people's money just because I can. So I always try to, provide them with the best value and, see how it goes from there.
Yeah, no, it's a foundational principle, I think, to success is just putting others before yourself. And one of the filters I always run things by is I said, would I recommend my mom to go work with this person? And anything short of a heck yes, it's like, okay, maybe it's not a fit. And I felt, just working with you, like, yeah, I would absolutely. And I think that's part of the reason that you're on as well. Let's talk about different ways that we can generate content. So I love video because you can repurpose, you can pull out the audio, you can transcribe it, you can cut it up into shorts and all these different things you can do, right? Which I've learned, you can repurpose the content, which is very valuable. You create it once and it essentially serves as a digital asset for you pretty much forever. What if people are just dead set on, hey, I don't want to be on video? What can they do? How can people produce content that can help people and solve people's problems? And a byproduct of that is have leads come into their business.
So if they don't want to be on video, if they don't want to show their face, I'll ask them like, well, can we use your voice and just do, voiceover work? That's fine too. I know somebody who broke over 1,500 subscribers on YouTube. She never showed her face. It was all just her voice and solving problems with that. And then of course you can always have like graphics and stills and written, material as well. So it can be done. If you're working in like the local space, you really just want to kind of like niche down and figure out how you can infiltrate that market, whether it's like hashtags or, search engine optimization, things like that. So there's definitely a way to do it. And everything's figure outable, right? So if you don't want to use if you don't want to show your face, then use your voice, or maybe you just feel comfortable writing the script. In that case, go to Fiverr and find somebody who will do the voiceover work for like $5, per 10, 15, 20 words, and then put it together that way.
I know a dude that had a caricature, if that's even how you say it. I always have a hard time saying that word for some reason. But he had somebody on Fiverr create basically a cartoon of himself. He didn't want to be on video. And he did exactly that. He did voiceover work, and it's his cartoon caricature that's providing the content. And I think that's actually pretty genius. And I think he kind of backed his way into that, but that's pretty unique. I don't see too many people out there. Like I think of the famous DJ Marshmello. I still don't know what that dude's face looks like, but I know what his mask, his marshmallow, and he's super popular. So I don't know. I think there's a play there for people that maybe don't want to be on video, but don't let that prevent you from producing content. And I think at the end of the day, sometimes when I speak, and I don't speak on stages a lot, but when I have, I always think to myself, even though I have those butterflies, that nervousness, it tends to diminish when I realize why I'm there and what I'm hoping my message is going to do for people. And when I put them first, it doesn't mean I'm still not nervous, right? But it's not about me. It's not about how I look or sound, or I release it. I surrender. That's a word I've really been leaning into a lot this year in my personal life. And it's helped me a lot. And I think if you take that and you apply it to your business and you apply it to creating content, and you put your prospect, your avatar first, I think it just makes it a lot easier. Talk about what are some of the options. Obviously, you provide some services, so I definitely want to give you an opportunity to speak on that. But for people that want to produce content, but don't necessarily want to be the producer of it, if that makes sense. Who, Not How, by Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan's a fantastic book that I've recommended a lot. How can people find their who when it comes to the digital marketing space?
Yeah, so I think it would just be figuring out a formula that works best for them. So maybe it's the voiceover aspect of it, and then go to Fiverr and identify like who would be a potential good voice for you, if you will. Maybe it's that avatar that we talked about where it's a branding stamp. Maybe it's, producing just content on Canva. So I think it's really just identifying like what's going to be the best rhythm for that person, and then figure out how to accomplish that. Fiverr is a really good place to, sort that out as well. And then turn to Google, like what are some unique ways that I can do marketing without showing my face? Maybe I should make a video on that. Actually, now that we say that out loud, maybe that's going to be next.
I think you should. And I would love it if you could tag me so I could share it with my audience as well. Because I haven't searched out there, but I think there's a lot of people that would love to produce content, but until they get over themselves, they're just not going to produce it because they feel they have to be on video. We've just identified a few ways in which you can still produce content and not have to do that. I'd kick myself if I didn't ask you something which to me makes all the sense in the world, but to others it might not. Talk about the importance of consistency when it comes to producing content, because I remember John Lee Dumas, who is I don't know if he still is the host of Entrepreneur on Fire, but it's thousands of episodes. He's at one point, it might still be, at one point it was one of the biggest business podcasts out there. I consulted with him before I launched this podcast, and he said, Alex, whatever you do, don't release a show and then not release another one for 2 or 3 weeks and then do 3. Like, have a cadence, have a rhythm, be consistent. And I promised myself June of 2016 when I launched this, if I was going to do it, I was going to do it every single week, 2 episodes a week for at least a year. And then fast forward 6+ years later, here I am. And I know that I wouldn't have gained the traction with this podcast if I would have been very just non-committal and just, I'll release a show this month, but not this month. Talk about the importance of consistency, because I see you putting out a lot of content consistently.
Well, it's like going to the gym, right? Like, you don't accomplish the physique you want by going to the gym once. You have you have to show up every day. Well, not every day, but consistently to the gym, and consistently in the kitchen and eating healthy. And that's when you start seeing results. So it's similar to in the world of digital marketing. And the way I best describe this to people is that Google, YouTube, Instagram, these are beasts that like to be fed. And the best way to feed this beast is by showing up and giving it content, and mixed forms of content. Maybe you just post on stories for a time. Maybe you post actual content, but like showing up is key, and staying consistent is key, just like you said. Yeah. And I think a curse that is common, and I have, gone through this curse as well, is that when your business starts performing so well, you start getting these leads and you're flipping them into retainers and you're building your business, that it's really easy to not consistently produce that content. And the minute you catch yourself slipping is when you need to figure out how to solve that problem. Yeah. So now I have a team that helps me with my social media content, because I was identifying that, hey, I'm not showing up in the way I need to. And if I don't show up my best lead generator on YouTube, what good is that? That's not going to keep business moving and growing. Right. So that's when I started to figure out, how can I hire people to help me to take the load off of this? So now I have a team that helps me with editing. I have a team that helps me with, posting the content and, things like that. I'm still there. I'm still testing and saying, hey, actually just this past week, we changed out some hashtags for me. I'm like, let's try this instead. Just this past week, I say, hey, let's try this instead. So it's important to always be there for your brand, but have somebody help you. If you get to that beautiful curse, which is you don't have time to crank out the content, figure out how to continue to keep these wheels spinning.
That's right. For those of you listening to this that are consistently or actively in this business and you're closing deals and you're making money, it makes sense to carve out, a piece of your budget for digital marketing, and find, work with Jennifer, work with somebody like Jennifer, like interview some people and see who you connect with. Now, before we start to wrap up here, like, what about the people that don't have much of a marketing budget? What can they do to, like, for somebody who wants to go out there and they want to generate leads, but they want to focus on getting in front of sellers, they want to focus on trying to close deals, but they also don't have a large budget. And maybe the thought of figuring out how to edit a video or how to do this and that, like, that just doesn't appeal to them. Is there a sweet spot for those people? Or would you say you're asking for a unicorn now?
Well, I just had this conversation with somebody else. This is going to sound a bit drill sergeant-y, if you will, but It's really important for you to know what works in your business. It's really important for you to know how to do these pivotal things in your business. So once you get to the point where you entered that beautiful curse, then that's when it's a good time to add somebody on, bring somebody in. But if you're not at that point, then I want to see you on Google. I want to see you on YouTube, searching, figuring out. I want to see you taking out your phone, posting content. I don't care how bad it is, just show up. And the more you do it, the more you practice, the better it's going to be. Just handing it off to somebody early on it frightens me a little bit, because what happens when it stops? What happens when that person drops the ball? What happens when now you have to step in and figure it out? So if you work in tandem with that person, that's one thing, but it's really important for you to at least figure out what's working and what's not working. So that's where I kind of come across and say, you need to do some homework. You need to go into boot camp for just a little bit.
Yeah. It's also tough, Jennifer, to, I think an extra point is it's also tough to manage something that you don't fully understand. When I got started in real estate, I got started door knocking and direct mail. It would have been a little more challenging for me to find that person if I didn't understand the process, if I didn't understand like what went into it. So I think it's always just a good rule of thumb, like good practice to just get your feet wet with something, understand it, and then you can find the right person to outsource it and delegate it to. Awesome. Well, hey, I want to get you out of here with one question, but before we do that, highly encourage you guys. So this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. There's only so much we can cover on a 30 to 45 minute podcast episode, but definitely connect with Jennifer, guys, at Digital Sargeant on YouTube. Is it the same handle for your Instagram and everything else?
Everywhere, all the channels, Digital Sargeant.
Okay. I love, by the way, there's consistency and branding there as well. So that's just as an aside, right? So at Digital Sargeant everywhere, definitely connect with her. And again, she's just a really good follow, very engaging, entertaining. What are the 3 E's that I'm putting in the spot? But it's, you want to engage, you want to entertain, and you want to, there's another E that I'm not thinking about right now, but either way, I don't even know. So but there's another E there, but that's kind of like the trifecta that I've heard in marketing. When you can engage, it's not inspire because that's not an E, but anyway, it'll come to me. If I had to ask you one final question, you're super young. I'm not going to ask you your age, but if you could rewind the clock pre-pandemic, before you launched your business, what's the one thing you now know to be true that was a doubt, a fear, a concern years ago that maybe prevented you from starting the business earlier?
That you don't need a personal brand. There's no reason why you should have a personal brand. The biggest mistake that I've made, and I talk about this as often as I can, so that way other people don't make this mistake or believe this. Your personal brand is in this day and age, your business card. If you let it fall asleep, if you let it go into hibernation, to restart those engines is exhausting. Yeah. So establish your personal brand and, perfect that and keep it growing with you along the years. Even if it's like a one-page website that says who you are and what you do, just, have something there as like your resume, a branch of LinkedIn, if you will, because that was something that I wish I did and wish I took more seriously, and didn't doubt that I didn't need it. I felt comfortable when I worked for the agency or when I was a chief marketing officer. I didn't think I would need it. I had the doubt that I didn't need it, but I definitely did need it.
Yeah. And if you haven't started, the best time to start is now. So don't, beat yourself up over the fact that, I wish I would have done this years ago, but get started now. It's never too late. It's only too late if you never start. So with that being said, I so appreciate you, Jennifer, for hopping on here and for sharing all the value you did. Again, I encourage you guys to connect with her at Digital Sargeant on YouTube and some of the other platforms. And with that said, make sure that you're subscribed to the podcast so that you're notified every Monday morning when shows are released. This is episode 668, which blows me away. And would not be possible if you didn't subscribe and support the show. So, Jennifer, thank you so much. Let's definitely stay in contact. And again, I don't think you know how much help you were a year or so ago when I lost my Google My Business and you somehow recovered. I still don't know how it happened or how you did it, but I'm glad I have it.
It's Google sorcery. I can't tell you how.
Okay, fair enough. Awesome.
Just kidding.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for everything. Guys, I will connect with you on the next one. Take care. One last thing before you go. If you have been listening to the show for a while and or you have been getting value from the show, I would be 100% honored if you would share this show with a friend or maybe share it with somebody that you think could benefit from this. It's my mission, it's my cause, it's my purpose through Flip Empire to impact and touch people's lives, to help people and in their businesses. So it would be an honor if you would be willing to share this episode. And one last thing, make sure that you're subscribed so that you get notified every Monday and Thursday when shows get released. I look forward to connecting with you on the next one. Until then, have a great day.